Hello again, my name is Rob from Platforms and Gamification Australia, taking you through part 3 of our training video series for using the Platforms dashboard within your organization and creating wonderful content for the platformers that you work with. Today we are going through the powers and the platformers section of your dashboard. Previously we've gone through the levels, organizations, and quests, so if you have missed those you'll need to go back into the previous videos and watch those. But today we're going through the powers and platformers. So we will start, and I've already logged in here, so you'll need to log into your account through the, which if you don't know you'll have to go back and watch the first video to see how to do that. But hopefully you've now logged in and you're in the dashboard here, and we'll go to our powers tab. So on the next to the quests, and you will see the powers tab, and if you click on that, you'll notice that's actually going to be quite similar to the quests. You can see view powers here. So I'm going to click on that, and it will take me to a list of the powers. I mean, it's a little bit slow today. There we go. We got there. So here you can see a list of the powers, and you'll notice that the nomenclature, the build of this site, is actually quite similar regardless of where you go. And that's intentional because we want this to be very easy to use. So you can see here again you've got the name of what the power is, and you can see we've got 2 powers. Again, this is the training ground, so we're not going to have the full roster of powers on here. But you can see we've got the name, which is rewind, and you've got the level that's required to get this power, which is level 3. Who was created by, which was me. The status of the power, which is approved, and if you recognize any of this from the quest system, you'll see that there's obviously going to be another quality control measure in here as well. And then you've got the allocations, and again, if you click on the allocations, it'll take you to the allocations page. And again, if you've watched the previous videos, which you should have, this is all going to look very familiar. So we've got the rewind, which we're allocating, and as we expand these trees, you'll see the same thing again. Now, if I wanted to allocate this to Johnny Newbie, I'll click on Johnny Newbie, and you'll see the tick here. This means that Johnny is going to get this power when he reaches the required level, which, if you remember, was level 3. So if I click on this, you'll see that he is now ticked, and you'll see again those partially filled boxes. Now, just to be clear, just so you guys remember, what this means is that Johnny will receive this power, Jimmy and Angela will not. But what it does show is that with these boxes, that a part of the group within Platforms Training Ground Platformers has been allocated this power, and a part of the Platforms Training Ground organization has received this power as well. If you want to allocate this to more than one person, you could either click, say, Jimmy and Johnny and Angela, and you'll see that they'll have it allocated to them. But if I wanted to, say, allocate it to all the people within this group, the Platforms Training Ground Platformers group, all I need to do is click on the group. So I click on the little tick box here, and you'll notice that everyone is automatically ticked. Now, if I had, say, 2 groups here, like, say, Platforms Training Ground Platformers and Platforms Training Ground, I don't know, Bears, then if I clicked on the Platforms Training Ground Platformers, the Bears would not be selected. It would only be the Platformers. But if I selected the whole organization, which is Platforms Training Ground, they would all be selected, including the Bears. So if I wanted to allocate this power to everybody, I'm going to click on Platforms Training Ground and click Allocate. Now that means that, as you can see here, all 3 platformers now have that power allocated to them. So when they hit level 3, they will automatically unlock this power to be used within the system. Now you can see here the total allocations, which is 3 platformers, and there's the edit and delete function here. Now, as an admin, you actually don't have this capability. The reason why is because we cannot have these powers being changed on a daily basis, and mostly because we don't want students, say, having a tool to cope with something or a way to deal with something and then strip that away from them. So it's actually up to you need to actually submit a petition to the super user to have that done. So from here, again, this should be fairly familiar to you guys, but we're just going to have a look at the add power creation system. So again, if you click on powers and then click on add powers, it should take you through, again when my internet catches up, to the new power form. Now again, this is going to look fairly familiar. It's going to look very similar to the quest creation system. Again, this is intentional. The idea is that it's going to be as simple as possible to create a power in as little time as possible. So what we're going to do is just make a new power right now, and make it as simple as possible for you to actually understand. So we're going to create a power called invisibility. So I'm just going to write invisibility here, and you're going to have to Forgive my typing again, because unfortunately I am typing around a very large mic, so forgive that. Now, for invisibility, we're going to have this as a very powerful power. So we're going to say that the platformer, when they use this power, can use invisibility to disappear from class until the end of the period. Now, obviously that's very powerful, and not every school will want to have that, but if you do choose to have such a power, then it is a very powerful tool for helping young people cope with, say, high levels of anxiety or depression, or perhaps they're being bullied in class and they need to have a way to basically get out when it all gets too difficult. And of course, they may not want to explain that to a teacher in front of a whole class, but this may be a way to diffuse a situation that can be potentially very disruptive to the whole class. So we're going to put that in there. Now, of course, there is going to be a couple of contingencies, because as you can probably see already, if a student wanted to, they could use this power during a test or an exam, and we obviously don't want that. So we might put another little note here that say the platformer cannot use this ability or power during a test or an exam. Now, it might not just even mean that this person could get out of the test or exam entirely. They may be able to do it later, but it could also mean that they could go and get answers from their locker. So of course we need to make sure that all of this is in check within the description, and this is just something for you to keep in mind. So as you're creating a power, it's important to understand the balance that's involved. So by making it easy to execute and making it balanced to actually have in the system, it's more likely to be approved, and it's more likely to be put into play in your organization. Now, for the level required, this gives you a choice of all the levels up to level 30. Now, because invisibility is quite a strong power, we obviously don't want to give it to people at level 1. Or maybe not, obviously. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if we gave this to everybody at the very start, first of all, that means that everyone is going to have invisibility from the first day, and they may all use it at once, and then you could be in a whole lot of trouble. But what you may want to do, for the more powerful ones, we generally would put them at a higher level. And the reason why is because the game, or platforms, actually teaches them how to self-regulate with these powers as they go. So by the time, say, they reach level 20, they will be sufficiently invested in the system and have done a significant amount of, well-being and resilience building quests, and have done quite a lot of school work within this system, and done a lot of work on themselves as individuals. So by the time they reach level 20, they will have the skills necessary to use invisibility wisely. And of course, at level 1, they may not have that. So of course, we're going to pick a fairly high level for them to actually achieve invisibility. Now, the cooldown period is something that you may not have heard before. It is a game mechanic term, but essentially what it means is that there is a restriction on how often someone can use a power. So if somebody, say, uses invisibility, this is the amount of time in days before they can use this power again. Okay, so if I was to, say, put a cooldown of, let's say, 14 days, okay? What that means is that once someone uses the power of invisibility, again, they have to be level 20, and they have to activate this power within their profile, which we can go through later. They will not be able to use this power again for another 14 days. Now, you may find that this is too little. So you could easily just change this to, say, 21 days, which will be 3 weeks. And this could be adjusted depending on the needs of the school and what resources you have available to facilitate a power such as this. But we're going to leave it at 21 just to make sure, because it could be a very high population school and we can't have students leaving class all the time, and the longer the cooldown, obviously the less people are going to be able to use it. Now, again, we have the journal entry text, just like in the quests, and this is something that goes into their journal automatically as a message to say, to either offer something of encouragement or just a notification to let them know that they've done something. So in this case, I'm just going to let them know that they've actually used invisibility, and it'll put a timestamp and a date stamp on that as well, so they know when they've used it, and they can get a pretty good idea of how often they're using this thing. So I'm just going to say used invisibility. Poof, as in, in a cloud of smoke. And from down below, we've got the organizations, and again, this is going to be very familiar to those who saw the questing video. From here, you can choose which organizations you want to allocate this to, and from here you can see that in the training profile, you can only select the platform's training ground. Just like the previous video, if you have multiple organizations, you can select which ones you want to have this available to, and click the single right arrow. and this will move it into the selected column. So from here, they'll go from non-selected, as in this power will not be available to the organizations within this column, to the selected column where they will be available. Now, if you want to move it back, you can click the single left arrow and remove it from the selected column. Now, if you only have the one organization, or if you want to put this power in all of your organizations, you can click the two right arrows, which says Move All, and this will move it all into the selected column, which is hopefully very handy for those who are in multiple organizations. Now, once you've done this, you'll have the same process as before, and you click on the Submit Power for approval. Now, once I click this, it'll say the power has been successfully created, and you'll see again that the status is pending. So you can see my new power here, which is invisibility, at level 20, created by the training admin, and the status is pending. Now, again, it's the same process as before. So this will alert the super user or the builder of the program, which would be myself or a couple other people, and we'll get an alert to have a look at this power and make sure it's balanced, make sure it's implemented properly. There will be an additional stage with powers that's different from quests. If this power is deemed to be either too powerful, or if your school or organization has specifically requested it, we may need to work with your leadership team to have this power implemented. So even though you create this power, and even though it's balanced, and even though it's well built and everything is going well, we may still have to talk to your leadership team to make sure that this is approved properly. So the final say on powers doesn't come down to the builders of platforms. It comes down to your organization, because they have selected a very specific list of powers when they first signed up for this program. So don't be too worried if you don't hear about it straight away. If there are any issues, we do contact you, but we will be talking to the leadership of the team about creation of powers. If you're not sure, powers are probably the thing that you'll be looking to use by viewing rather than creating. So you can allocate this to your platformers if you so choose, because they'll be available to you because your organization has said so. Quests, you can add your own, and you can use the ones that have been created already at a little bit more to your leisure. So don't worry too much about this as much as the quests. Feel free to, obviously, if it's a good idea and it works well in the organization, we will certainly look for an approval there, and we'll advocate for the power. But of course, again, keep in mind it's at the discretion of the people who run the organization. So that's it for the powers. We're going to have a quick look at platforms before finishing up. Now, this is something that gives you a fairly powerful tool to quickly gather as much information as possible about the platformers within your organization playing the game. So if you click on the Platformers tab, it'll take you to a list, and again, sorry about my slow internet, of all the individuals who are within your organization. Now, again, it's the same nomenclature as before. So you got your first name, your last name, the organization that they're a part of. So again, we've got Johnny Newby. He's part of the Platforms Training Ground organization. He's level 1, and he has 0 experience points. Again, because he doesn't exist. He's not a real person. So from here we can see at a snapshot, and what you'll see within your group is a list of all your platformers, and all their names and what organization they're a part of, but you can get a quick snapshot of what level they are, how many experience points they've got. Now, this will give you a fairly good idea of how well they're investing into the system. So if they're engaged with the system, obviously they'll be progressing at a fairly similar rate to everybody else, or a bit higher or a bit lower, depending on their own personal motivation. And you can see here that, let's say if you had been running this program for a couple of months and you had someone here who was still level 1, had 0 experience points, then of course you know that he's not engaging, and you may need to follow up with that. And there could be a variety of reasons for that, and of course we can we go through that in our training in person, but we'll just keep that in mind as well. Now, if you want to get a more detailed view of Johnny Newby, you can click on the View button. Now, if you click on here, it'll take you to a detailed view of his profile, and this will include some more detailed information. So here we've got Johnny Newby, and this will be a picture of the JPEG or the image that the platformer wants to use to display themselves. So it's a personal choice, and of course, because he's not a real person, Johnny Newby doesn't have an image yet. And you'll see here that he'll have a list of all the allocated quests that have been allocated to him. And right now, of course, because of what we did before, that he has the test quest allocated to him. Now, if it's completed, it will say that it's been completed on here. So you'll see what quests that he has allocated and the ones that he has completed. So if you see that he has a whole bunch of quests that have been allocated, but none of them have been completed, then you'll know that, of course, that there's an issue with engagement here, and you'll need to engage with your platformers and find out why. Now, in the journal entries here, this is your more powerful tool for understanding in a little bit more detail, like what the young person or the platformer is going through. So let's say at the end of every quest, say Johnny Newbie will be prompted to have a small journal entry, and it's only about 140 characters. It's about the same length as a Twitter post. So every quest, they complete the quest, and they give a little bit of time, 140 characters, to just have a little reflection of what it was like for them to do this quest. There'll be maybe a couple of questions within the quest description itself that we may want them to reflect on specifically, and you'll find that in the journal entries as well. So let's say that Johnny Newbie did a quest to talk to somebody new today, and it went very well. So Johnny will put a journal entry saying, "That felt really good. I have a brand new friend, and I'm feeling very happy, and I'm feeling very peaceful, not very anxious right now. Things are going well." And you'll read that, and you'll go, "That's really good. That's a really good result." So we know that that quest has gone well for him, and he's in a very good place. Now, if you were in an organization where you were on your own and you were understaffed and underfunded, and you had to prioritize who it was that you were seeing that day, you could fairly reasonably say that you may want to maybe just check in with Johnny and give him a high five and give him some encouragement, but you wouldn't need to say, pull him out of class and disrupt the whole class and use a whole bunch of resources just to find out that everything's going quite well. What you could do instead is have a look at the people within your roster of platformers, and you can see if anybody's having any bad experiences. So let's say that Johnny did the same quest, talked to somebody new, and it didn't go well at all. And he could say, "That went really bad. I actually feel really upset right now. Like, I'm angry that you made me do this. Why would you make me do this?" And of course, that's a really bad response. We don't want that, of course. But what that means is that, of course, he hasn't managed to successfully, in his mind, he hasn't managed to successfully complete the quest. And then you'll see in the journal entries that he has a negative response in his journal. And you can say, "Johnny's having a bad day, so I should allocate significant resources to making sure that we're following up with Johnny today." And from here, you can make sure that you have a plan. You can have a strategic plan for a large number of students using as little resources, using resources more efficiently than you would have been able to before. Because a lot of the time, you just don't know. And this gives you a great way to have a catchment for the students who are struggling and the students who really do need help and may fly under the radar otherwise. So, this is the conclusion of part 3 of training. We have gone through the vast majority of all the functionality that's in here. There is going to be much more detail, obviously, in the in-person training, and we do have digital training to coincide with this as well. If you do require any further training, please contact us at support@platformsgame.com and let us know, and we can organize providing that extra support for you. What I will just show you just quickly is how to log off, which is click on your account and you click log out. Now once you've done that, that will take you back to the home screen, and you can see here that you're back at the intro page. So thank you very much for watching. Again, my name is Rob. If you have any questions at all, feel free to contact us at our support email. Feel free to contact the admins within your organization if you need any more help. And otherwise, happy platforming.